Hi everyone, welcome to the SoccerBeat podcast. We are talking Chiefs today and we are reviewing the second preseason friendly that they played. 4-0 defeat to Utrecht. First things we should say is that this was a much tougher game for Chiefs. Utrecht obviously finished 4th in the Eredivisie and FC Utrecht are in the first division and struggled last year, finished about 12th. So we're always going to see a much more testing game for Chiefs. Just before we crack on, myself and Tsepo Masilela, please can you guys subscribe? About 2/3 of you are still not subscribed but are listening regularly. So just click that subscribe button and then you can also comment or like if there's anything you'd like us to cover in the podcast, please stick it in the comments and we will try our best to get that done for you. Okay, so Tsepo, a 4-0 loss. The first game, Chiefs lost, but they played a bit. It was more of an even game, at least in the first half. This game, a bit more one-sided, a much better opponent. So that's good for Chiefs to try and keep pushing their fitness levels and their match fitness up. What did you make of the first half with a pretty similar side to the last game, just two changes? So we saw Froster drop out and Shingo get a start. And then we also saw a change on the wing where Lilepo came in and Mfundo Vilakazi didn't start. So what did you make of the first half?
Oh, it's still preseason. It would be harsh of us to criticize them that much, but yeah, man, I still feel like with the new striker up front, Flavio, the attack is not in sync. They not dangerous. They're not much of a threat going forward. It's they hardly even created like clear cut chances. I know in the first half and also in the second half, I still feel like there's a lot of work that needs to be done especially in the attack. To be more synced and a bit of I saw a bit of also frustration from the players. When they try to get the striker. And maybe they couldn't read the run or the pass. Was not they were getting a bit frustrated, but hopefully with time it will get better. And yeah, man, there was nothing much other than that they got the minutes, under their belts, the players, but there's no much positive. And again, you concede 4 goals and you score none, and so
Yeah, and the goal, of course, coming quite early from a set piece, slightly not the best marking at the back post with the knockdown, and then it looked like maybe it's hard to really tell, but it looked like McCarthy or Mtetwa got kind of mixed up in the header between those two. And then the second half, of course, Chiefs conceded right after the break. A sort of quite a long ball down the side of Shinga, and McCarthy kind of caught out as well between that left side of that defense, and the goal finished off there. It's probably to be expected because, of course, McCarthy only played one game last year in the PSL, and he's new to this level. Even though he captained the Kasafa Cup team. Dortley's not back yet, and of course, Paseka Marco's got a broken arm apparently. So, yeah, not maybe surprising that there's a bit of teething issues on the left side. What did you make of the second half? We saw players go from 45 minutes in the first game to getting more like an hour, which is, of course, good for them to step it up. But what did you generally make of the second half display where Chiefs lost 3-0 after, in that second period?
In my opinion, pretty much the same. The second half and the first half, even with the changes they made, they look like the first half team, or the team that played 60 minutes and pretty much the same. The first half, second half, they couldn't create. They struggled to create. And, in the attack, again, they were not, that clear. We couldn't see a clear, structure or clear plan of how they're going to score or what they're trying to do, and yeah, man, again, we could say it's preseason, but we all know, sometimes the signs are there and sometimes you have a bad preseason and you start good in the league. So, it could be one of those, but yeah, man, there's nothing really. There's no too many positives in this Kaizer Chiefs team.
And then after the hour mark, we saw quite a few changes. Basically, everyone went off except McCarthy, who played the full game. We didn't see Bradley Cross today after seeing him play 45 minutes in that first friendly. And yeah, there was a few obviously changes in midfield. We saw Pula Mori back. He didn't play in the first game either, and he came on and looked quite lively. Actually, I thought probably he was one of the positives. He set up a chance quite late for Chislett, and then Sirino blasted over from the rebound. He also set up his Zwane shot. So Mori did quite well in his 30 minutes. But we saw, basically the entire team change again. We even saw Naledi Hlongwane get just over 30 minutes up top. No Ashley Dupree today. No Tashrik Morris. Do you think that some of the players who maybe didn't have a big impression in the first game, let's say Morris and Cross had a few issues in the second half physically with that big strikers, do you think we're starting to see Nabi kind of work slowly towards what we might see in that first game? You know, you can't always read a lot into preseason. Sometimes guys play it and they don't play in the season when the season starts, or vice versa. They're one or two might be a bit behind fitness-wise and they do start the first games. But do you think what we've seen, we can maybe read a little bit into that maybe a few guys have already started to maybe fall to the fringes?
I would say it's still early days, but you can read, I think the team that started the game, the core of the team, that will start the season. I would assume it's gonna come from the team that started the game. And yeah, man, it's obviously, with preseason and playing these games, it gives the coach a lot of feedback. And with the window still open, there's still gonna be movement. I'm assuming also, I'm looking at this Kaizer Chiefs team. If let's say the striker, Flavio, if he doesn't hit the ground running, who's gonna get them the goals? Now you kind of thinking as a coach, okay, we've got a new Flavio, still have a Morris, maybe Ashley Dupree, but they need to be signed. You need a guy that's gonna at least give you that hope. The goals are gonna come from this guy, but right now we don't know where the goals are gonna come from this Kaizer Chiefs team. And and for players again, if you don't grab the opportunity, you might be in trouble.
Okay, let's look at a few positives. So, of course, we know Chiefs also still nursing some injuries. Dortley and Msimango ended last season injured. They're not quite back yet. Paseke Marco with a sort of a setback in his early days of training. And Lovo should be joining up soon and should be able to start to get a few minutes there. Obviously, depends on the visa situation because he signed quite late. We haven't seen Wandile Duba at all yet, and he was probably Chiefs' best forward in the first half of last season. So we know this team is still maybe 4 or 5 starters away from where probably what we're going to see in the early rounds of the season. So that's one positive to take. For me, another positive, and I'd love to hear your comments, is Thabo Cele has been really good in both games so far. Actually, so is Mshini Ngobo in midfield. I mean, he's played as a 10, but he's kind of dropped deep to kind of connect things. And actually, they've been quite good with the pressing of these European teams. They kind of play around them quite nicely. Maybe Ox not so much, but I think, Mshini and Tele, I think their technical qualities really come through, and that maybe they're not going to miss too much from a technical level if those two can, especially if Noble can stay fit because he's had so many injuries.
With Thabo, you can see that he's a step above like everyone else in this Kaizer Chiefs midfield. You can tell that maybe also playing in Europe, helped him a lot. And with him, there's no doubt like he looks the parts, he looks more fitter and sharper. Where when you go back to Mshini, there's games where you need a 10 to drop and try connect, and try keep position, but can he score? Can he assist? As a 10 nowadays, you are judged on those. Are you scoring? Are you how influential are you in the attack? In the final third per se. If because anyone can play a 10 that drops and come and combine, touch the ball here and there in the middle where it doesn't hit the opponent. That doesn't really matter. And with Europeans, they very much disciplined, and organized. So they don't mind you dropping to touch the ball where you don't hurt them. So it's okay for them. You're playing in front of them, but they are Cele, of course, and not only in this game, like, also in the previous game, he showed great touches. He wants to play, he wants to drive the team, he wants to carry the team. You can see that he needs a bit of help, He is really trying, and hopefully you'll have a good season.
Let's also move a little bit onto the wide areas. We saw Lelepo back. He didn't play in the first game. We can assume he had a small knock, so that's why he didn't play against Vitesse. And he had some good moments in this game. He had a couple of shots, a couple of dribbles. Tate was fouled a few times. I think we can see as well that he's probably going to be the number one in those wide areas. But then on the other side, we've seen Mduduzi Shabalala play as a winger in all his minutes so far. Is that something we're going to see a lot? Because obviously they've got Chislet as a 10, McLeod can play there, there's Mshini, Sirino can also move inside. So I wonder if we might see one winger this season be a Shabalala or a Sirino who plays narrow, and then the other side have more of a genuine threat there. Or do you feel like they need width on both sides? And I mean, they are linked with Vilibayi again. maybe on a free. We don't know the legal situation there. But the wide areas haven't really inspired us so far in these two friendlies.
Yeah, I think they're trying to stick with Mshini as a 10. Hence, we're seeing him do more wide in the past two games. And as I said, sometimes, with preseason, you also go into this game with heavy legs, a bit of tiredness. You're not that sharp as a player. You're not well rested because we're trying to load for the upcoming season. So maybe some of the errors or not sharpness in the attack, because you can tell they tend to lose the ball cheaply once they get to the final third. Maybe it's due to the heavy legs. But I would say again, in this Kaizer Chiefs team, without the Sirino, I don't see them causing havoc, in terms of creating chances. He's the go-to guy, in my opinion, in the final third, who can unlock with that pass, who's got an eye for that pass. Can they get him? Can they get him fit and to be in the starting 11 also with age and all those stuff? When you're over your 30s, but I only see him, who can step up in terms of creating chances and also scoring goals.
Yeah. And now for Chiefs, of course, the way they've set up their preseason, they had, obviously Utrecht, and then the next, they have a game the next day against NEC and Nim again. So I'd imagine you're going to see maybe Nabi change the team quite a lot. Maybe those guys who played the 30s will actually get the 60s. And then we'll actually see if any of them can step up and maybe, put their hand up properly and say, I'm ready to be in the starting 11. Maybe we'll see Cross and Dupree come back in, and maybe they'll play full games or quite a lot of minutes, because McCarthy, you'd imagine, won't play 2 games in 2 days. Is there anything you're looking forward to in that friendly? Is there any player you want to see maybe get a few more minutes, even if it's maybe Naleli Klongwana up front, just to see what he's offering? Or do you want to maybe see someone like Flavio Silva maybe play an hour or even another hour just to really get him up to speed?
I would also, I would stick with the Flavio Silva. He needs the understanding, to get the understanding with his teammates. So he can only get it in true play, right? And I would also love to see maybe a Sirino, getting more minutes. I think he can help Kaizer Chiefs. And the rest, man, there will be changes also because of the tired legs, as I mentioned earlier on. So, but those are the two guys that I would love to see more. With the striker, Silva. Sometimes you have a bad preseason and you're banging the goal. So we have to be patient with him. He just joined the team. He's new in the team, different league, different teammates. Everything is different to him. The setup is different. So we will have to be patient. In fairness, we can't really judge him in these 2 games. In preseason, we have to give him some time also to settle.
Okay, Tsepo. So 4-0 defeat for Chiefs, but I think we've been quite balanced. There are positives. There are things you need to keep in mind. That preseason has some fatigue for the players. They're going to mix and match. Still some injuries for Chiefs, so they're still a long way from that first game starting 11 coming out. Thanks so much for joining me. We're going to probably review all the games this preseason, so by the time the season starts, you're going to know exactly who's up to speed and who's not.